And so, yes, we've seen this sort of elevation of women. They're doing great, amazing stuff. That doesn't mean that we want to bring them down to bring men back up. We just need some ideas, some role models, some systems, some structures that actually encourage men to flourish, because no group is falling faster or harder than young men right now.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast, where the truth will set you free.
Welcome. I'm here today with Aaron Machbitz, who has a fascinating story, and we're going to have a great conversation. I'm excited to have you. So welcome, Aaron.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You have an interesting background.
Yeah, I do have an interesting background. Where do I start? Let's start with my very first love, which was baseball. Fell in love with baseball around the age of 4. And then that took me all the way up till like the age of 13, where I fell in love with my second thing, which was professional wrestling, like WWE, The Rock, all that stuff. And so basically at that point, I ran downstairs when I was 13, told my parents, who are the most supportive people on the planet, God bless them, that I was either going to be a professional baseball player or a professional wrestler. There was no other option. And they were like, sounds good. That's basically what basically my whole life revolved around that. Once I saw professional wrestling at 13, that's when I started getting into the gym. The gym absolutely transformed my life. I think that's a huge thing for men and young boys to get into the gym as well as sports, and we can dive into that subject a little bit too. Uh, yeah, but then I was fortunate enough to play Division I college baseball. I was an All-American, had some chances to go play professional baseball, but decided that I wanted to be a professional wrestler instead. So moved back home to Dallas, Texas, where I'm from, started training at a school, became Jackson Stone. That was my professional wrestling name. And if you're listening right now, please wait to the end of the episode to go Google that so you don't look at me in a weird light and don't see me in like my underwears, sparkly underwear with like a weird tan and like long blonde hair. You might not take my ideas that I present in this show very seriously if that's what the light you look at me in. But if you do, great. I'm happy with that. I love that part of my life. I'm very proud of all of that stuff. It's just funny to look at it now currently.
I mean, it could be like you better take my ideas seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. I did all of the push-ups and all of the bicep curls right before I took every picture, so I look extra jacked. Don't for sure. So, and so then, yeah, professional wrestling was my full-time job. I was on the independent scene, so I wasn't signed to any major companies. If you're a professional wrestling fan, like WWE or AEW or things like that, I was just on my own. Similar to how I, run my sort of my podcast in my life now. So I guess my entrepreneurial journey started then. And then, yeah, fast forward to some pivotal moments that changed the trajectory of my life. One being 2018, where I was living in Philadelphia with one of my good friends who wrestles under the name Wheeler Utah. And that's when in September of that year, that's when I got the call that my big sister Rachel had died from suicide. So that was the most life-changing moment ever for me. Totally changed the way I think, feel, and act in this world. And we could dive more into that. And then the second sort of life-changing event, which was a life-changing event for everyone, which was COVID, that really sort of shut down my job because it's very hard to wrestle in front of no people. So I, in a second, didn't have a job. And so I started working at Walmart locally here in Texas. And that was a 45-minute drive there and back every single day. And that gave me sort of the clarity to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Because for the 2 years between when my sister passed away and COVID, wrestling just felt weird. It felt weird to pretend to be someone else. My identity was totally in crisis. I hadn't even figured out my identity after my baseball career. I just identified as a baseball player and then right into a pro wrestler and then into a fake pro wrestler. My character at the time was pretending to be a movie star named Lights Camera Jackson. I barely had, pretty cool, sweet moniker, came up with like in the middle of the night. But I was not any of that. I barely had any money. I was struggling to get by, starving artist type of thing. And everything was pretend. When I go to the shows, I'd pretend. I try to be that version of myself all the time. And then I lose someone I love deeply, who is one of my biggest supporters. You get sort of punched in the face with reality about what really matters, what you really want to care about, the person you actually want to be in this world. And so, I sort of floated around for those 2 years between 2018 and 2020, still sort of being the character, but diving deeply into mental health, about how we think about suicide, how the world thinks about mental health, how we can do something about it. And then COVID hit. And then I said I had those drives back and forth to Walmart, and I got a lot of clarity on what I wanted my life to look like. And so It took me another couple years to fully move away from wrestling as a full-time job and into the things that I'm doing now, which podcasting and coaching and speaking and thinking about things on a sort of deeper level. And yeah, so that's my story in a very quick nutshell.
There's so much there. There's a lot to unpack. I want to go back to the first thing you said that really just caught my ear a lot. And I think you said 13 years old, you got in the gym, and you said the gym changed my life. Like that really resonates with me a lot. Can you flesh that out for me?
Oh, 100%. Like, just like most young boys, I was bullied. If you're watching this on video, you might be able to see that like my nose and my ears are like pretty big. Now they like sort of fit my face. When I was young, they did not fit my face. My feet and my hands and my nose and my ears were like bigger than the rest of my body. I'm now 6'2", like 240 pounds. So I like grew into myself. But at 13, I didn't have a neck. Like my body just hadn't like grown into itself. So I looked like weird. Like when I look at my pictures now, I understand why I got bullied. My mom is the only person in the world who goes, "No, you're cute. You're very cute." Again, most loving human being of all time. My wife even goes, "Yeah, you're all right." Trying to be nice about how like weird, like a gremlin that I looked. So, anyways, point being is that I got bullied pretty harshly, and it wasn't. I was super into like superheroes and Batman and all those sorts of things, and and sports. That sort of stuff kept me afloat, and loving parents. It's much different than now when people get bullied because they can never sort of leave it. Like it's on the phone, it's at home, it's at school. It never leaves you. When I went home, the bullying left me. And so I actually had a safe place to feel loved and be loved. So I could handle it a little bit better when I went to school and actually got made fun of or called Dumbo or whatever the case may be. But then I find professional wrestling and I see these dudes on TV who are just jacked out of their minds. Like John Cena used to wear his headband on his bicep. And I was like, okay, fucking yeah, all right, I'm in. Like, because when I watch baseball, you can't really see that the dudes are jacked. And like when you read comics, you can see they're jacked, but it's like they're not real people. So I couldn't like connect to it. But I saw John Cena and all these people. I was like, this is yes. And so I immediately got into the gym, and over like a 3-year process, eventually when I was around 16 or 17, I saw and felt my body absolutely transform. And a couple things happened that were unbelievable and unexpected. I started getting good at baseball. Why? Because my confidence was through the roof. Not only was I not getting bullied anymore, no one was like even talking to me, which is kind of what I wanted. I didn't really make any friends in high school, but I would rather no one talk to me than be bullied. And I just felt a bit more secure in myself. I felt better about my body. Again, my facial structures sort of grew into each other. I felt like when I walked in the room, I could hold my own. Again, my baseball abilities got better because my confidence got through the roof. I started talking to the girl at the front desk of the gym who I saw every day. That boosted my confidence. Just like speaking to other dudes at the gym who I saw every day, bigger dudes who I wanted to look up to, just gave me a lot of extra skills in life and showed me one true rule that I really knew, that if you put in effort, you will receive the gains. Like you will, no matter what. And I found that out with baseball. I found that out with the gym. But in the gym, you could see physically yourself change. And then you start to change emotionally. You start to understand these ideas of discipline and effort, and what you put in, you definitely get out. And yeah, so like I've been working out literally every single day of my life since I was 13. It's an anchor point for me. Now I do it more for mental clarity, even though I'm still trying to get jacked. I don't know if my body can get any jackeder, if that's a word, unless I use some outside substances, let's say, which is potential. Maybe I'll start getting on some testosterone once me and my wife are done having children. But it's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing outside of the support of my parents, that's made me the person that I am today.
I love all that. I feel like when you're looking at younger men today, I feel like there's this kind of mental health crisis with younger men. And I think so much of it is feeling like I'm not competent, I'm not capable, like I'm weak, I'm not strong. And there's certain things like getting a good job would help with that, getting a girlfriend would help with that. But I feel like this idea of just like getting in the gym and just knowing if there was a woman in distress who needed a heavy box picked up, like I could do it. You know what I mean? Like there's something that boosts your confidence about the gym that's just different from other avenues of life. I'm wondering if you could kind of focus it. You did it a little bit, but a little bit more on like that mental health aspect of like I just pump some iron, like I'm okay as a person kind of thing.
I mean, for me, it goes down to the idea of feeling useful. I think a
Mm.
lot of men today feel useless because they don't know where they fit in society. Am I allowed to work out? Is that okay? Or is that fucking quote unquote toxic? Am I allowed to be jacked and big and dominant? I mean, it makes me think of the Jordan Peterson quote, like, become the most dangerous man you can possibly be, then have it under voluntary control. I feel like you learn that skill in the gym. You learn that skill in the gym. Like our physical health and our mental health are just interconnected. I think, as obviously as you know that, right? But like now we're finally coming to this idea that it's not mind, body, or separate. They're one. And if I want to be the most disciplined, determined man I can be, I have to start with something that I have full control over. And that's me putting in the work in the gym every single day. Because in life, we can't guarantee results, but I can know that if I take these steps in the gym every single day, if I do the right sets, eat the right food, train the right volume, listen to the right people, be consistent as possible, that I'm going to get what I want out of that. And that not only proves to you that you can do it in other areas of your life, but it makes you feel useful, which is the number one thing I think that men need to have strong mental health. And in the gym, you also get that validation. Very little from females because you'll have more dudes come up to you in the gym being like, dude, you're fucking crushing it. I see her every day. Like, cheers to that. That's just a little bit of appreciation. For guys, we don't need someone telling us every single day that we're appreciated. We don't. I tell my wife this all the time, but every once in a while, just let me know. Just let me know. Because that makes me feel like the things that I'm doing make me feel more useful to you, our family, our life, or whatever the case may be. And the same thing, that's the skill that you learn in the gym. And it applies to everywhere in your life. And it gives you more mental fortitude, more mental toughness, more mental clarity. You can think about things in the gym. You can understand how you want to make a plan for your life. You have these invaluable skills that you learn in the gym that transfer everywhere else, just like playing sports, which I'm a huge advocate for everyone. Not everyone's going to be a professional athlete, and definitely not everyone's going to be a professional bodybuilder, but all of the skills you can extrapolate from those things make men better men. That's why men's groups today are so important. And that's why they're so popular now, because maybe we didn't get that when we were younger on a sports team or a club or an environment, or we weren't in the gym, or we weren't using our hands, or we weren't going on hikes, or we weren't being active with our body, because there is this notion that men should move to the side, that we should be sort of docile and weak in the corner. We should let other people get ahead of us because we've been ahead for too long. And then that makes us feel like we shouldn't use the gifts that we were given, which we should. We were given these gifts for a reason, to be leaders in the community, to use our bodies to protect and to provide. And we have to understand those capabilities. And the way you can understand those capabilities is by being in the gym on a consistent basis. And again, it'll change your life, whether you're 13 years old or whether you're 52 years old. I just got my dad in the gym. He's 69. I got him in the gym when he was about 66. One day we were at dinner and he goes, Aaron, I don't want to feel frail and old. I was like, dude, you got to get in the fucking gym, mate. Like, he was like, done. So now he's in the gym 4 or 5 days a week. Not that he's like some sort of fucking meathead bro science guy right now, but like he understands. He takes a few supplements. He's like, I feel better. I'm 69 years old. I'm about to turn 70. Like, I feel better now than maybe I did at 55, just because I'm lifting some weights and I'm moving my body. My bone density is increasing, and he's retired. So again, it makes him feel useful. So he's not withering away. He makes him feel like his body is still worth using, which it is, obviously. And he's gonna be a granddad soon, and like, that's cool. And he wants to be able to do all of those things with his new grandchild. So all of that stuff is really important.
That's so awesome. What role do you think, like a specific brand of feminism that sees kind of every manifestation of masculinity as toxic, what role do you think that plays in men not wanting to hit the gym, not wanting to be strong, like letting me be kind of small and weak so I kind of hide from, like, I don't want to be the target of, the accusation of toxic masculinity. Do you think that plays a role?
I think it definitely plays a role. I think that the decades long, maybe even longer, demonization of men has made men feel like they don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Is it okay if I open the door for you? Or is that like because you're a boss babe bitch and you want to do everything yourself? Am I still allowed to open the door? Should I walk on the side of the street where the cars are coming? Just like, it's generally nothing's going to happen, but should I still do that? Should I still offer to pay for the date? Should I still ask you out? Or is it creepy for me to walk up to you in the gym and say, hey, I see you here all the time. Like maybe you want to grab a smoothie after the gym. I don't know, whatever, right? But guys are just afraid to do any of that. One, they might get filmed and then might be put on the internet and then it's creepy and then they go viral. Now they're hiding at home. And so there's this a weird, but like, it's so interesting. I think we even spoke about this when I had you on my show, is that those might be some of the like stated ideals of feminism that sort of caught men at a bad position and demonized them and made them feel like they can't do anything. But that's not the actual revealed preferences of what women actually want. Women still want all of these things that are traditional in a man. They want you to do all these chivalrous activities. They want you to look like an actual man. They want to feel like they're provided for and they're protected. And so my urge to men is to stop listening to that sort of advice. And the idea that masculinity is toxic is an insane idea. It doesn't even make sense. It can't be toxic. Masculinity is a thing just like anything else. If I have a hammer and I use that hammer to build a home, that hammer is useful. If I take the hammer and I smash you over the head with it, Ryan, that hammer is a murder tool. Doesn't make the hammer inherently bad. It just makes the person wielding the stuff bad, right? Andrew Tate, not a good version of masculinity that we want to embody. Jocko Willink, fucking right. Let's go, right? There are good examples of masculinity, of healthy, integrated, strong masculinity where we can follow. And so, yes, whatever certain brand of feminism has sort of indoctrinated certain men to believe that they should be weak and they should be docile and they shouldn't take care of themselves and they shouldn't get into the gym and they shouldn't become absolute fucking monsters is not good for society. It's not good for society. Like the world would not survive if men did not exist. Just like the world would not survive if women did exist. Obviously, there's the one that produce the children and do all this like amazing stuff. I'm watching my wife be pregnant right now. It's incredible, right? But both genders, both sexes, whatever you want to call it, have to exist and flourish for society to be at its very best. And so, yes, we've seen this sort of elevation of women. They're doing great, amazing stuff. That doesn't mean that we want to bring them down to bring men back up. We just need some ideas, some role models, some systems, some structures that actually encourage men to flourish, because no group is falling faster or harder than young men right now. And people just want to ignore that because, oh, they think men will just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's what causes all of these issues in the first place. But if we can have some structures and some systems that actually encourage men to become the best version of themselves while also elevating all of the women, then man, why wouldn't we have a flourishing society where we're not at opposition with each other? We're not in a zero-sum game or an additive sort of building game. That's what great relationships are about. That's what I hope my wife and I have. We're adding to each other's life in a way that's beautiful and powerful. So that's what I urge men to think about doing, because a lot of times, or at least what I've seen, like men are trying to basically remove themselves from society by either ending their own life, or we're seeing at an alarming high rate, which is something that needs to be like a national thing that like the research of Boys and Men are doing a great job putting those things out into the world. But there needs to be some more systems in place, more societal changes, cultural changes that help young men not want to end their own lives. Like that should be an alarming thing that people stop and say, why is this happening so frequently? And then I think I lost my train of thought. Yeah, maybe I'll stop there.
That was all good stuff. I want to get back to one thing that you were talking about. I think it's called the difference between stated preferences and revealed preferences. So you have a lot of men who are very confused when they hear you should be essentially this emasculated person. You should be kind of small and weak because anytime you make yourself larger, that's toxic masculinity. You could be stepping on someone's toes. Don't even let your knees spread out because that's man spreading. You know what I mean? And, you have to, like, if you want a girlfriend, you should essentially be her little pet, basically. And then you look at the women, like, and look at who they're choosing, and all the guys that they date looks like their nickname is probably Thor. And these people are not emasculated. These people are not a little pet. And so you're kind of confused at, like, what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
Yeah, 100%. They're 100% confused because a woman will go on like a street interview, which happens all the time now on these YouTube shows, and they'll say like all of these things that maybe they think they should be saying in sort of a leftist, sort of progressive type of way. But then at the end, they'll say, yeah, I want my man to make $500,000 a year, but you want him to also be like small and like your pet and sort of feminine and super emotional and always share his feelings all the time about everything, no matter what. I'm like, you don't want that. You don't want that. There is a middle ground. Like there is a middle ground. Like I had to learn when I was getting married to my wife, like how to express my feelings in some vows. That's an important part about life, an important part about men to be able to express something that they really, really, really love. We have to learn that, but we also have to learn the other side about being the man we know we can be, the Jordan Peterson sort of dangerous man. That's why I like to think about masculinity in like a warrior poet sense. This is what women actually want. They don't want you on the first date to just stumble over everything, start crying, and expose all of your insecurities and trauma all over the place. That's not what they want. Nobody wants that on a first date. I don't even want that when I hang out with someone for the first time. Now, if we build a relationship, I want to know everything about you. I want to know everything that makes you tick, all these sorts of things. But you have to establish sort of a set of dominance about yourself that you are a real man who can handle situations, who can be a provider and a protector. And then as that relationship grows, then you start to show off this more poet side. Then you start to express the beauty and express the love and show your vulnerabilities and maybe ask for help when you need it. Like there is a point for all of these things, of course, like obviously, but women still want what they've always wanted. And that's, I don't know if that's ever going to change. I feel like that's part of our biology and maybe our intrinsic nature. And so guys have to understand that. And it's about thinking about how you can build yourself up. One of the things that bothers me a lot is guys always point the finger at blaming women for not liking them. Well, if every single woman in the world doesn't like you, it's not their fault. It's clearly your fault. And that's not a dig on you. That's not something like, oh, you suck. No, it's just like, okay, this is what it is. I'm accepting this reality. Apparently, I'm not as attractive to the women that I find attractive yet. That's a powerful word we use in sports all the time. I'm not there yet. So what can you do? Okay, well, we talked about it a lot. First thing, get in the freaking gym. Are you making money, or do you have a plan of making money? Do you have, women do sometimes date on like draftability or like where could you be in the future, right?
Skill.
It's a beautiful thing because they want to see that you have passion for something. Do you have passion for something? Do you fucking really love something? Are you hungry for something? Potential. Like, great. Like 3 years ago when my wife and I first started dating, I did not have everything set up that I have now with my entrepreneurial journey and my job, but she saw how hard I worked every single day at something that I was trying to do for the future. So that when we did have potentially kids, she saw that in the future. She was like, we're going to be fine because he has a passion for something and he's consistent at it. Yes. So you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to have the $500,000 a month job right now, but you do have to have some sort of plan to make money to be able to provide for yourself and a family. You do have to get into the gym so you find yourself attractive. You do have to have good personal hygiene. You do have to have clothes that are appropriate and fit well and fit with the style that you're trying to create. You do have to be able to express yourself, not always your feelings, but just express yourself, how you feel, what you want, what's important to you, your values. Do this person align with your values? All of these things you can train and work on. They're not sort of these like intrinsic traits that just fall on you from the sky of God. Like they're just skills that you can develop as a man if you actually put the time and effort in for the long haul and say, maybe I'm not getting any dates now, but where can my life be in 6 months or a year? Okay, I can make my habits too small to fail. I just build incrementally over time, over time, over time. Then maybe I find myself being attractive to a woman. I mean, Scott Galloway talks about this all the time, who's sort of like the guy when it comes to talking about these things. And he says, ask yourself this question, guy, if you're a guy, would you have sex with you? Pretty simple. Like if you are a girl, would you look at you and be like, oh yeah, that's a guy I would definitely have sex with? If not, there you go. Start there, figure something out, get a good haircut, have some nice clothes, have some prospects about your job. Like, figure out some sort of passion, purpose, meaning, all of this stuff that's valuable for your life. Again, you don't have to have it figured out today, but you have to have some plan of action with consistency, with reliability, with durability in your life. I mean, these things are important. This is how you become sort of the warrior poet or the person that becomes attractive to the opposite sex or whatever sex you might be interested in.
I love that. I want to go back to something you were talking about a minute ago with men and suicide. Younger men and suicide is a huge issue. I was looking at a survey of men who had died by suicide, and one of the most commonly used words between all these men was the word useless, like feeling useless. What do you see as the role of like productivity and competence and like feeling like I'm making some useful difference in this role? What role do you think that plays?
I mean, for me, it's like my whole life. Um, I And so I would imagine for most men, that's how we feel. Like I'll give you like a personal example. I've worked weekends my whole life, whether that's been baseball, professional wrestling. I've never had weekends off ever. And right now I sort of have this in between period where baseball season, because now I'm a coach, baseball season hasn't started. And last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago, Saturday, I had like nothing to do. And normally I just work on the weekends on some stuff. My wife was at her book club, so we didn't do anything. I was just at the house doing nothing. And I felt weird. I felt really weird and I felt useless. And it was a weird feeling. Not that I wanted to do anything about it, but I just like something came over me. Like I just don't feel like I'm doing anything that's important right now. And that's like a big deal for me. And so I imagine if that feeling happens for a man 6, 7, 8 days in a row, 2 weeks in a row, 2 months in a row, 3 years in a row, like I gotta imagine the dark place that could put you in. I mean, I was only feeling useless for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I just started like doing some stuff and whatever. But I imagine if you are home alone, you don't have a partner, or you don't have like a job that you really like, or you don't have anyone telling you in your life that you appreciate, or you don't have any, you feel like your life has no potential. And that feeling of uselessness just continues to go on and on and on. And then maybe you get on social media because everyone has that and we're on it all the time. That you then hear you're in this certain algorithm where all you hear is like man bashing bullshit. And of course, that's going to make you feel awful. It's going to make you feel inherently bad about yourself and who you are. Because one, you feel useless, and other people now agree that you should feel useless because that's what your role should be in society. I mean, you can imagine a young boy, 13, 14, 15, hearing this information for the first time, and maybe they have no other role models at home. Maybe they have no other information that they're hearing from a sports coach or a religious leader or a father in the house. They're only hearing it on this social media platform that they've got this algorithm in them. And so now they feel totally useless. And that's a horrible feeling. Like I only felt it for a little bit on one Saturday afternoon. And it was like this weird sensations in my body about like, I was like moving around my house, like doing nothing, trying to like I already had went to the gym that day. I was about to go back to the gym just to like use my body for something important or useful. And so that feeling is like, could be totally debilitating. And so I understand. And also with my sister's experience, right, I know what it looks like to get to that super dark place where you feel like there's no other way out. This is my only option. And that's really, really, really scary that a lot of men in our society feel that way. And again, there has to be something done, not just on a personal responsibility level. Of course, we need to take accountability and ownership over who we are, but there also needs to be societal and cultural changes, systematic changes. I mean, Ryan, you imagine any other group in the whole world, that they were struggling as much as men and the suicide rate was climbing as high as men, there'd be just constant conversation about it. There'd be groups and clubs and coalitions and all this shit would be happening, right? Wouldn't you agree?
It's kind of bizarre in a sense
But not for
because
men.
the idea is like, we want men to be more vulnerable and express your feelings. And men are like, hey, we're actually dealing with some mental health stuff. A lot of us are feeling suicidal. And the response is basically like, suck it up. You have all the privilege.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect. We are being very vulnerable right now, extremely vulnerable. We're showing you everything. We're telling you that we don't feel like being on this earth anymore because we feel like we provide no value. That is the most vulnerable we can be. So why not help? Like do anything. Like yes, and I get yes. Again, it's a lot of personal responsibility, but there's personal responsibility can only go so far if we already feel like we're worth nothing. Like again, when you feel like you're in that super super dark place, you're not thinking about anything else. You're not. You're not thinking about your family. You're not thinking about your potential. You're not thinking about your job. You're not thinking about the dog that might be next to you or the movie you got planned with your friend the next day. You're thinking about, man, I just feel like this hell has overtaken me and I don't know what else to do. I don't actually want to die, but I do need this pain to end. I know that's how my sister felt. She had some mental illnesses that she was deeply struggling with, but it's the same sort of idea when you get to that dark place, when you get to the deep, dark places of your own mind and you feel like there's no way out. That's where a lot of men are right now. And we need help. We need, again, systematic changes. We need coalitions. We need groups. We need research. We need understanding. Most importantly, I think we need better role models. And the social media algorithms have to prop up those better role models. They can prop up the better role models and they can diminish the other shit role models that are spousing off garbo, but they can talk about They can prop up maybe the high school gym teacher who just made up TikTok and now is talking about good stuff, about how to be a role model. He has got a family, he's got a couple kids, he's great for the community, right? Or they're, more Jocko stuff, more Chris Williamson, right? More Jordan Peterson or whoever is your vibe, right? I do also think Joe Rogan is a good role model. You might not agree with everything he has to say, but he takes care of his family. He works really hard. He's in the gym. He takes care of himself, right? These are the things that we want to talk about. He's committed to his wife. He has kids, like all of these things that we care about. Like, let's prop up these role models because men need that. They need a vision for their future. They need to look at someone and say, I can be like that person. I can be like that person. That's why, again, why sports and coaches are so important because you're around them, shaping them. And the kid that you're around can look up to the coach and be like, oh, I can be like this man when he grows up. And he sees how he treats his kids. He sees how he treats the other players. He sees how he treats his wife with kindness and compassion. But there's also toughness. There's also grittiness to that. And he sees that I can become that person if I just do these things. That's what young boys need. And they're getting the wrong messaging constantly.
I interact with a lot of women in my sphere of the world that are feminists. And I like to say, if you want to work with a man, let's say under 40, there's a few names that you need to know. You need to know Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Huberman, Chris Williamson. Like those four, definitely, you need to know who those people are. And you get a lot of pushback of like, oh, that's, they're pushing toxic masculinity or this or that. And the reality is, if you don't like those people, the ones waiting right behind them are very ugly. Like you are not, if you get these people to abandon them, you're not going to like who comes after that.
Yeah, fact, right? Like if you think those guys are bad, who are the other ones? Who are the other ones that we can prop up? And there's always going to be guys waiting in the wings, that want to take those spots that are not quality men, that are not quality men that I want to associate with. I know tons of great people. My dad, great role model. Tons of coaches that I've had are great role models. But some of these people don't have large platforms on social media that garner a lot of attention. And nowadays, at the age we live in, that's what sort of makes you a role model, because that's how you're going to be seen to the most number of men around the world. And so they are good role models. They are good role models for young men. And yeah, but if you don't like them, who are the other ones that you would put in their place? If you have other options, great. I'm here for it. Like, let's talk about them. Scott Galloway is another great role model. Arthur Brooks is another great role model. But these guys are older men. Outside of Chris Williamson, who's about around our age, in his 30s, all these other guys are 50s and 60s because they've been around so long. They've had some time to figure out who they are and who they want to be and build their life. And so young men also can have a larger time frame for their life, a longer vision for who they can become. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow or by the time you're 21, but it can happen by the time you're 40. You kind of build something because you did consistent work over a long period of time. You have to be able to sink your teeth into something meaningful and wake up, hungry to just go out into the world and do that. Or if you don't have a path, the world and social media is just going to flail you around and find that path for you. And it might not be the one that you really want.
I want to switch gears for a second. You're Jewish, and I can see your menorah behind you. The last few years have not been as good. It feels like there's a target on the Jewish people. You've got the pro-Palestinian Hamas thing going on. You've got just it feels like anti-Semitism used to be whispered and now it's said in a louder voice. You've got just all kinds of conspiracies, related to the Jewish people. I'm wondering how you navigate that or understand that, or what your perspective is like when you look at the world as a Jewish person.
Yeah, my whole perspective changed on October 7th. I mean, I've been proudly Jewish my whole life. All my family is Jewish. My wife is Jewish. We're going to raise our kids Jewish. I had a bar mitzvah. And I never really, in a serious way, dealt with anti-Semitism. Like, you got made fun of for having a big nose or this or that, certain things. But that's not like, that is what it is, right? And then October 7th hits, and whether you agree or disagree with the Israeli government, it has nothing to do with, before they even retaliate, on October 8th, we have all of these Hamas protests happening on college campuses across the world with fucking, entitled college kids in Lululemon pants screaming pro-Hamas stuff. Like, I don't understand how that happens so quickly. Now, you can protest the Israeli government. You have all the rights to, right? But it doesn't make sense for it to happen so quickly before any retaliations happen. I mean, we're almost 2 years into this thing. We're on April 7th right now. So close to 2 years. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better in terms of the just absolute disgusting cesspool of anti-Semitic behavior on X. And now I don't love using that word all the time because I feel like it's been overused, just like, he's a Nazi or he's a racist. If you earn the title anti-Semite, you should, because you damn well earned it. And there's some people on social media who earned it. But there was this thing recently that came out. This Rabbi Shem Tov, was talking about a Senate hearing about becoming anti-Semitic and sort of like the anti-racist, Ibram Kennedy type thing. And I think that's a bad strategy and a bad look for the Jewish people to start compelling people to say and do certain things, because there's already a very large conspiracy surrounding Jewish people that we control this, we control the media, and we control the government, and all of these, blood libel, drinking children stuff that's been spewed all over social media. None of that's true, and it bears no facts. But if we come out in real time and start saying that it's not enough to be anti-Semitic, we have to be anti-Semitic, and now we're forcing people to do that and compelling people to do that. You, as well as anyone, knows that just doesn't work, right? You can't force or compel anyone to do anything. So the real way you fight anti-Semitism is with the Jewish values, which go hand in hand with the American values, the 10 commandments of morality and living an ethical life. Like, those go hand in hand. So the way you fight anti-Semitism is you dig deeper into what makes the Jewish tradition sort of what we consider sort of the morally superior religion in terms of what it's brought into the American system and what now we believe is very self-evident. So it's not about compelling anyone's speech. Everyone has the right to free speech. If you want to be a Holocaust denier, that's totally fine. My job then is to engage with those ideas, hopefully in a good faith manner, to try and convince you that you're not right, even though the Holocaust and 6 million Jews dying is one of the most well-documented genocides in the history of the world. Some people still deny it. And you're allowed to have that opinion. If we start compelling people that they're not allowed to talk that way or demand that they don't say those things, then we've almost proven the fact that some of these conspiracy theories are true. We have to have engagement. We have to have open and honest dialogue. We have to have good enough persuasive facts that potentially change people's minds, or at least have them sympathize with the fact that Jew hatred is deeply on the rise. And there are some people who believe in the most outrageous conspiracy theories about Jewish people. And so it's not about telling them they can't say that. They absolutely can and have a right to. It is about trying to deeply engage with those ideas and not calling them names as well. That's why I don't like the anti-Semite just being thrown out to everyone who posts something on X. Because then what does it actually mean if someone is actually saying that we drink the children of blood and that Israel is the home for every pedophile on the planet? Like, we're doing that point. Instead, we're trying to engage with these ideas in hopefully in a good faith manner that potentially change people's minds. And if they don't, maybe it was just maybe I need to work on my ideas. Maybe it's a moral failure on their part. They just refuse to see that side. But at least we had that conversation and there was no compelling of speech. Like Jordan Peterson has been fighting since 2016 when someone said that, the pronouns were a good idea. He was like, don't tell me what to do. That's basically it. And so I think that came out, maybe a week ago, the anti-Semitic thing. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear that, I'm one of the Jewish people who doesn't believe in that idea, and I think we should engage with these ideas. But yeah, it's quite a scary place. I'm my son, who my wife is pregnant. My son will be born in September of this year, and so I hope, by the time he understands his religion, his background, his history, his family history, that maybe we've gotten better at sort of accepting some of these ideas, accepting different religions and cultures and ideas, and how we can all fit into sort of a flourishing society. But it is quite scary. And, I pray for the hostages to be returned home. I have family that lives in Israel. I pray for their safety all the time. They've been in bomb shelters consistently back and forth for the last almost 2 years. I pray for the people of Gaza, that eventually they'll be free from Hamas and they can live a fruitful, self-determination type of life. But it's horrible. It's horrible. And I hope that those who propped up Hamas and are propping up actual terrorism maybe understand the error of their ways and can reconfigure their moral compass to potentially align with, the right side of history. But that's just my view. You might get a little heat for that, Ryan, if you post that on a public platform.
I welcome it. It'll probably be TikTok where the heat comes from.
Yeah.
I went to Israel on a family trip in 2011, And one of the things that a lot struck me about being there, it's such a fascinating country, but one of the things that struck me is how physically, geographically tiny it is. I remember being in the Golan Heights and like, oh yeah, right over there is Lebanon. That's where Hezbollah fires the rockets, and then over here Syria, and then you've got Gaza over here. It's just all right there. It's like probably you're in DFW, Dallas, right? I would imagine
Yes,
most
sir.
of Israel would fit like in the greater metro area. It's a very small, and they're surrounded by enemies. It's just, you think about it as an American, we have this massive country with two oceans protecting us. They don't have that in Israel. It's a very different situation.
Yeah, it's very different. And I think people forget that all the time, that they have enemies on all sides and they're still the only democracy in the Middle East. One of my wife and I laugh about this all the time. It's like the queers for Palestine. It's like, I don't understand. You can live freely in Israel. Like they're one of the most, like they have one of the biggest pride parades in the whole entire world in Israel. They are just all about it. But you're what? Like there was another sign that said whores for Palestine. I don't understand what that means. Like you can't have sex with whoever you want in Hamas's rule, but you can in Israel. You can literally do whatever you want. Like, and so some of those things are just confusing. I don't know where sort of how you get from to that place where it just like literally doesn't make logical sense. Again, you can disagree with the Israeli government or what they're doing, but Queers for Palestine doesn't make sense. Like they're notorious for throwing those types of people off of buildings. You would not be alive because it's not a democracy. It doesn't have feminist values. It doesn't have any values that are compatible with how we want to live in the Western world. But Israel is trying to do that. No government is perfect. No one does anything right. Like if you live in America and you see what's happening with Trump, maybe you disagree with that. We're obviously not perfect at all. But wouldn't it be better if we tried to live via our most important Western values than living on the opposite side of them, which is what they have in these sort of terrorist, jihadist organizations?
One of the things you see with a lot of white intellectuals is this white guilt phenomenon. It's like kind of like I have to apologize for my privilege, and you have this kind of big show of self-flagellation. I see that a little bit with Jewish intellectuals. I'm wondering if you see that. I'm thinking of like Norman Finkelstein. I don't know if you know who that is,
Mm,
but he actually celebrated after October 7th. Um, it's mind-boggling to me, but there seems to be this feeling that also occurs with especially Jewish intellectuals, similar to these like progressive white people of like, I have to denounce my identity to somehow kind of fit in. I don't know if you see that.
yeah, I mean, I've seen it with Norman, the guy that you mentioned. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what. Maybe it's like the oppressor oppressed narrative that has sort of taken over since Israel is the larger, stronger government. They're the oppressor, so I have to take side of the oppressed no matter the situation. Yeah, but I'm not really sure where that comes from. You might be able to speak to it a little bit more on sort of on the work you've done or where that ideology comes from.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like kind of social cultural capital. I feel like especially in high level, especially academic progressive circles. If you're a privileged identity, you have to kind of put on some kind of performance that you hate yourself in some way. It's part of like fitting in. It's like I'm at this fancy dinner party, so I have to act like this social justice little dance I have to do.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot of unearned moral virtue.
Yeah,
It's like toxic compassion or whatever, however you want to call it.
yeah.
Gad Sad calls it like suicidal empathy. But I think it's all of those things trying to show that you're on the right side of history. But I think maybe these people actually think. I think Norman maybe he does actually think he's doing the right thing, which is cool. Like people are allowed to have their intentions and think they're right and all of those sorts of things. But some people are just sort of pretending because they feel like they're doing the right thing. We've seen that a lot with all sorts of these woke ideologies that sort of took over the world for a while. This sort of pretend virtue signaling type thing that showed up instead of like, actually maybe standing firm in your values or God forsake, like saying, I don't know enough about this subject to comment. Like, wouldn't that be a fucking miracle? You know what I mean? I don't know a ton about Ukraine-Russia situation. I don't comment on it. I know there's obviously a war going on, but I don't know the intricate details about what's happening. Haven't paid that much attention to it because my focus has been elsewhere. And so if someone asked me about it, like if you were to ask me about it, I'd be like, "Nah, I'm not comfortable talking about that." But people want to have an opinion on everything, and then they read something very small about it, but they want to feel like they want to be virtuous in that side. So they're just going to go with that side. Maybe that's not right. They haven't seen the full story. They haven't engaged with certain ideas or facts about the situation. But that's just one of the perils of social media that's not going away anytime soon. That's for sure. But maybe we can do a better job of being discerning and having some critical thinking about those sorts of things.
What do you make of the current political landscape in America with Trump, wokeness? Like there seems to be so many conflicting storylines going on. How do you parse it out?
I don't know, man. This is like the most political I've ever gotten ever. So I really don't think about it like too often. I think about the woke stuff, quite a bit. And just in terms of like, I was really interested in sports, and I am really interested in sports. So the trans conversation was really of interest to me. It still is. But I don't think a lot about Trump. I try not to have him affect my life just because I try to take care of my things, my family, the things that are important to me. And so I asked you this question on our podcast. Have we passed peak woke? I think that's true. I think we have. But I think in certain sectors, like the one you reside in, maybe in universities and stuff like that, we haven't. But like, at least like in my areas, I think we have. And I think the trans conversation getting a bit more nuanced, which is good. And yeah, so I think about it something like that. But I don't, yeah, the political stuff is not something that I dive deeper into. I'm more concerned about, young men are a big concern of mine, having them, right? I'm talking about these sorts of things that make our life better. But yeah, so sorry I didn't have very, very good
No,
answer
no,
for
no.
that question.
You're good. You're good. Do you see kind of just wokeness generally? We talked a little bit about kind of a specific brand of feminism that's kind of attacking masculinity. Do you see wokeness generally as like a hindrance or something that's like a roadblock for young men?
Yeah, because like wokeness sort of parallels with being very progressive, and that word has sort of gotten taken over because yeah, we want to be progressive in our ideas and the things, but now it has a bad connotation. And obviously now progress means elevate women but downgrade or push down men, and so it does have that ability, and it is doing that. And so I mean, men like are more, right leaning than ever. More men go to church than women do because we don't haven't found a place in our society. I mean, men are having less sex than they ever have, and people probably hear that and be like, good, all they do is want to have sex. It's like that's not the fucking point. The point is that they're not leaving the house, they're not engaging with people, they're not trying to have real relationships in real life, because you can get all this instant gratification on your phone behind a screen, and that doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help women find a great partner, that doesn't help men find a partner, because relationships are the cornerstone of our existence. If we don't have relationships, we don't have life. And so hopefully that this sort of woke mind virus starts to sort of leave society, and we get back to sort of the root of what makes us great, is building great relationships with whatever sort of pairing that is. It doesn't actually matter, but between men and women, ideally, that's how we create a better society. And I think once that goes, men will feel more inclined. Maybe they'll then realize that, yeah, women have stated that they're this, but their actual real preferences are this. And maybe that can come into the societal light a little bit more, and men can go out into the world and engage and have adventure in real life. But that's what we need. Men need adventure in real life. They need how to learn how to take risks and take rejection. When you take healthy risks and you learn how to have rejection and setbacks, and you learn that someone saying no to you is not the end of the world, and you keep going at bats and getting at bats and getting at bats. And then that's how you meet the partner of your dreams, or that's how you meet the person you want to spend your life with. And that's how you build a community, a small community. And that community builds out, and it has ripple effects. And I think that's sort of the most important thing that we need to be focusing on.
If you're looking at a young man who's kind of aimless, doesn't have direction in life, what would you say, like life lessons from pro wrestling that you could impart onto him?
Oh, well, pro wrestling, what a dream. Number one, like get into the gym, obviously. That's got to be number one. But one of the things you think about in wrestling is like this idea of like fake it till you make it. And I don't know if I love that phrasing, but I think maybe a better phrasing is like act like it. Act like the person you want to be like, even if you're not that person yet. And that can help you step into those shoes, into some uncomfortable stuff. Pro wrestling is an amazing thing because you have to step out into a very uncomfortable environment where people are going to judge you, Whether they're going to boo you or cheer you, that's up to you and how you act. You're putting yourself in a situation that's very vulnerable. And so we have to put ourselves in those situations if we want to succeed in life. Pro wrestling does create a bit of an identity crisis in terms of who you are in the ring and who you are out of the ring. So I would encourage young men to figure out who they are, what their core values are, their first principles are, what they want to live by. Pro wrestling also teaches you how to speak in front of an audience, speak in front of people, to tell you what you want and what you don't want. If I'm a pro wrestler, I got to get over this storyline that Ryan and I are feuding. He stabbed me in the back. We were best friends, but he wants the championship gold more than me, and he stabbed me in the back. I got to be able to express that story, my disdain for him, even though I still love him because he was my best friend. But now I want to fight him. I want to fight him, and I want to prove myself that I'm not the weaker link of this tag team. And so there's an ability then to express your emotions, to tell a story, because story or life is all about narratives. I mean, what makes pro wrestling great is it is the hero's journey. It's mythology in real life. And that is what young men need to realize that they can do. They can go on the hero's journey where they can develop themselves, and they have to slay dragons over and over and over again. But as they continue to slay the dragons, they're going to get more things. They're going to get more armor, better equipped, and better handled to handle the next dragon that they have to slay. And that's what pro wrestling in a nutshell teaches you. It's good versus evil, where everyone has like a little bit of the other side in them. The evil guy says some truths that you're like, ooh, he's kind of right there a little bit. And we all have that evil inside of us. The good guy can't be too perfect, or else no one will love him, because then that doesn't resonate with anyone. So you can never strive for perfection. You're always going to have those imperfections that make you a little bit more likable, because people have those insecurities too. And it's okay to be upfront and honest and open about those things. And so that's why pro wrestling is such a beautiful, beautiful thing, because it does mirror and mimic life, and it teaches you a lot of valuable lessons. Now, there's some things that go into pro wrestling that aren't healthy. There's a lot of mental health crises in professional wrestling. There's a lot of addiction and suicide and things of that nature. And that's one of the sort of the goals of my life, is to implement some mental health structures in the professional wrestling business so I don't lose any more of my friends. But professional wrestling can teach you all of those things. And those are very valuable lessons for any young man who's trying to, be his very best in this world.
Mm. Yeah, there's so many beautiful, deep wisdoms, life lessons from pro wrestling. I never watched pro wrestling growing up, and I had a friend. This is maybe 21, 22 years old. He was an English professor, and I found out he loved pro wrestling, and he was like the nerdiest guy. And I was like, that's such a weird contrast to me. I was like, it doesn't make sense that you would like that. He goes, it's because you don't understand the storylines. If you understood the storylines, you'd be into it. So it's fascinating to me, like how all these things weave together.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing. I mean, they're just the best wrestling storylines are the most basic and understood. Like the one I laid out, like your best friend turning on you. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. But people want to see that good guy fall down and get back up, and fall down and get back up, and fall down and get back up, because he's not perfect. He doesn't always win. He doesn't always get his way, but he always, always, always gets back up. And that's the fucking hero's journey. And that's the beautiful part about life, because when you get knocked down, you can get back up. We don't have a lot of control over the things in our life, but we do have control over, our attitude, our effort, and how we respond to certain things. And I think that's a powerful reminder, especially pro wrestling. So you should watch pro wrestling. I also have a pro wrestling YouTube channel, Pro Wrestling Daily, if you want to follow it. It's just a reaction channel. It's kind of fun. But anyways, yeah.
I love it. I love it. I got one final question for you, and that is, when you look at society more broadly, what is one thing that we're not talking about enough that we should be talking about more?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the alarming rise in male suicides. Like in my sphere and your sphere, yeah, I might feel like we're talking about it a lot, but I think just society in general, you're not seeing it talked about a lot. Definitely not on mainstream media, maybe not on a lot of podcasts that aren't like centered around men. That's something that we definitely need to talk about. We're not talking about it enough. I know Richard Reeves is doing amazing work with the American Institute for Boys and Men, but that's the only think tank in the country that's doing research on how to help young boys and men. That's one. That's it. We need more conversations about it. We need more coalitions. We need more debate about it. We need more systems and structures and resources and all of these things to help men, because they're ending their own life at an alarmingly high rate, and it's something we're not discussing enough. I don't even think that we're not even discussing enough. I don't even think we've come to terms to accept the fact that it's a reality. that is the starting point. Like, at least accepting the fact that this is true. Some people don't even want to admit that it's true because they don't even want to admit that men and boys are struggling and they might need our help. They're falling faster and harder than any other demographic in the world today. And we have to accept that. Then once we accept that, we can move into some action. And then that's where we really can help young boys and young men thrive. And then through that action, they're going to take that personal responsibility, that ownership over their life, knowing that people see them, hear them, and then that makes them feel useful. And then that just elevates everything around them and in their life. So I think that's very important.
I love that. One more thing. You've listed a few. Can you just name a few people that you would suggest younger men follow as role models?
Absolutely. Yeah. Jocko Willink, Andrew Huberman, Chris Williamson, Arthur Brooks, Scott Galloway, Joe Rogan's another one. If you want to follow me, that's cool. Yeah, I think that's a really, Jordan Peterson, really good place to start. I think John Vervaeke is a good role model for men too. He doesn't really talk about masculinity a lot, but he is a strong role model. I think that's a good place for people to start. Sink your teeth into those guys, especially Scott Galloway and Arthur Brooks. They talk about masculinity and happiness a lot. Really, really helpful, actionable tips that you can apply to your life immediately. And then outside of them, get in the fucking gym.
Love it. I love it. All right. Well, Aaron, this has been such an interesting conversation. Loved having you. Loved our talk. Love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.